Today, there is dangerous news from Iran. Here, Iran's furthest strike yet has exposed secret ties and a possible new player entering the Iran war. To everyone's surprise, North Korea is actively supplying the Iranians with the technology necessary to upgrade their ballistic missiles to a whole new level, as the Ayatollah's regime has now threatened to strike Europe itself. Recently, Iran has launched 2 medium-range ballistic missiles toward the Diego Garcia military base, a joint US and British installation located in the central Indian Ocean, roughly 4,000 km from Iran. Neither missile reached its target because one failed during flight and the other was intercepted by an American interceptor missile launched from a naval vessel. But even though the attack caused no damage, it represented Iran's first operational use of medium-range ballistic missiles in combat and signaled an unprecedented effort to project power well beyond the Middle East. And here is the detail that changes everything. Just 1 month before the Diego Garcia strike, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi had publicly stated that Iran deliberately limits its missiles to a range of 2,000 km. 1 month later, Iran proved that claim was a lie. Iran has been hiding its true long-range strike capability all along. With these missiles, Iran can reach all of Europe. The standard range of Iran's Khorramshahr intermediate-range ballistic missile is only 2,000 kilometers. However, by reducing the payload to approximately 300 to 500 kilograms, well below the usual 1,500 kilo warhead, the missile's range was extended to as much as 4,000 kilometers. This trade-off effectively doubles its reach, but at the cost of substantially reduced destructive power, meaning such missiles are less effective against hardened military targets and critical infrastructure, requiring multiple strikes to achieve the same impact as a single heavier payload. But what makes this even more alarming is who helped Iran get here. Iran didn't develop this capability in isolation. Its ability to conduct long-range strikes today is closely tied to decades of cooperation with North Korea. And this partnership goes much deeper than most people realize. It dates all the way back to the Iran-Iraq War, when North Korea supplied Scud missiles that helped Tehran survive Saddam Hussein's onslaught. Over the following decades, the relationship matured into a full strategic axis, surviving sanctions, diplomatic isolation, and international scrutiny. The partnership operates as a straightforward exchange. North Korea provides weapon systems, technology, engineers, and underground facility expertise. Iran pays with cash and oil, an estimated $3 billion per year in recent years. The missile launched at Diego Garcia was identified by experts as a Musudan-type system, a North Korean design. Iran purchased 19 of these from North Korea and took delivery back in 2005. This is not a new secret weapon. Iran has possessed this capability for over 2 decades. Iran's Shahab-3 missile is almost an exact copy of the North Korean No-Dong. Pyongyang sold Iran roughly 150 of them in the late 1990s and built the production facility inside Iran. From that base came the Ahmad and Ghadr missiles, now targeting Israel and US bases across the region. The liquid-fueled ballistic missile program that Iran uses today is almost completely North Korean in origin. North Korea even built missile test and tracking facilities inside Iran and helped construct a network of underground tunnels and hardened bunkers, making Iran far more resistant to US and Israeli airstrikes than it would otherwise be. This range shows that the Iranian regime now presents a broader global challenge with missile capabilities that could place major European capitals such as London, Paris, and Berlin, as well as NATO and US military installations within range. Iran has explicitly stated its readiness to carry out military operations against adversaries worldwide, warning that both military and civilian targets could be considered. An Iranian parliament member from the National Security Commission confirmed publicly that all of Europe is now within range. In practice, Iran has already demonstrated its willingness to strike European-linked military assets. On March 2nd, a Shahed-type drone struck RAF Akrotiri in Cyprus, a British sovereign base on European Union territory. 2 days later, NATO intercepted an Iranian ballistic missile heading toward Turkish airspace, the first time the alliance has shot down an Iranian projectile aimed at a member state. The war has already reached European soil. The mere existence of this capability could significantly strengthen Iran's strategic position at the negotiating table. Now, Iran can threaten European critical infrastructure and military bases, which can force European governments to apply pressure on the US to scale back its bombing campaign. However, the reduced warhead in the 300 to 500 kiloj range is relatively modest. Comparable payloads are routinely employed by Russia in Ukraine using systems such as the Kh-101 cruise missile, Iskander missile, and FAB-500 glide bomb. Individually limited, these munitions can still cause significant damage when used repeatedly and at scale. That said, Iran is assessed to possess a relatively limited number of such long-range missiles, making it difficult to overwhelm advanced defensive networks. However, even if one missile slips through NATO's air defenses, Iran can cause serious damage to NATO's credibility and image. Now, here is the part that should concern every European government and every Ukrainian watching their skies at night. European air defenses are stretched dangerously thin. Germany's foreign minister stated publicly in February 2026 that Berlin has exhausted its own air defense missile reserves entirely. "We simply don't have any left," he said. If Europe's largest economy entered this crisis with empty magazines, the situation in smaller Central European states is even worse. In the first days of the Iran war, Arab countries using US systems burned through more than 800 PAC-3 or THAAD interceptors. Each PAC-3 missile costs $4 million. Each THAAD missile costs $12.8 million. The Iranian Shahed drone being intercepted costs at most a few tens of thousands. Lockheed Martin delivered a record 620 PAC-3 missiles in all of 2025. The Middle East conflict burned through more than that in days. It will take over 2 years just to replenish what was used in the first 48 hours of the Iran war. The Pentagon is even considering diverting weapons originally designated for Ukraine to the Middle East. Approximately $750 million in NATO-contributed funds under the PURL framework that was supposed to sustain Ukraine's air defense may be redirected. Every Patriot battery committed to defending Gulf cities is one that cannot protect Odessa or Kharkiv from Russian ballistic missiles. Every interceptor used over Riyadh is one fewer available to stop the next Russian barrage against Ukraine's power grid. European governments across the continent may prove reluctant to supply these critical missiles to Ukraine, giving pro-Russian politicians the perfect argument. We cannot send air defenses abroad when our own skies are under threat. Interceptor missiles are being used in the Middle East at an unsustainable pace, which will create critical shortages. And with the new threat from Iran now reaching European territory, the consequences are being felt not just in the Middle East, but in Ukraine, in Europe, and across every alliance that depends on a finite supply of missiles that the world is burning through faster than it can replace them. The rogue strategic pipeline between North Korea and Iran is not history. It is actively shaping the battlefield today, and the entire Western world is now paying the price.